The neon lights of the gas station flickered against the dusk sky, buzzing faintly like tired insects. It was one of those highway pit stops, half convenience store, half fuel station, where travelers drifted in and out without ever remembering its name. Ilara stepped out of the car slowly, her knees stiff from the long ride. She was 72, her silver hair pinned neatly in a bun, her blue cardigan buttoned carefully despite the warmth of the evening. She carried herself with grace, but her body bore the quiet signs of years spent working and surviving. She turned toward her son, Leo, through the open car window. "Do you want me to pick up something for the children?" she asked gently. Leo, lounging behind the wheel, flashed a quick smile. His wife Serena leaned over from the passenger seat, her lipstick perfectly applied, her nails tapping against her phone screen. "The kids love those sour cream and onion chips, Mom," Serena said, her tone sweet, too sweet. "Why don't you grab a bag? They'll be thrilled. Consider it a little surprise treat from Grandma." Ilara's eyes softened at the thought. She turned to the back seat, where Liam and Sophia, her grandchildren, were playing with tablets. Sophia looked up and waved with a grin. Liam, older and more sullen, managed a half-smile. "All right, dears," Ilara said, smiling. "I'll be just a moment." She opened the door, clutching her purse, and stepped into the fluorescent glow of the store. Behind her, the car engine hummed low, then roared. Inside, the store smelled faintly of hot dogs and burnt coffee. Ilara found the chip aisle and selected a bag, humming to herself. She was slow, deliberate. Her life had taught her that nothing needed to be rushed. By the time she returned to the door, chips in hand, the car was gone. Her heart stuttered. She stepped forward quickly, scanning the parking lot. Empty. The space where Leo's car had been was nothing but cracked asphalt, faint oil stains, and silence. The sound of the bag crinkling in her trembling hands seemed unnaturally loud. "Ilara, don't panic," she whispered to herself, though her breath came shallow. "Maybe he parked on the other side." But no, she circled the gas station. The car wasn't there. Her son, his wife, her grandchildren, gone. A vibration buzzed in her purse. She fumbled for her phone, her eyes watering though no tears fell. A text message from Leo appeared on the screen. "Sorry, Mom. Traffic was a nightmare. Couldn't wait. We'll call you when we get home." Her lips parted, a soundless gasp escaping her throat. For a moment, she stood frozen, the cool evening air brushing against her face. The betrayal was not sharp but heavy, like a stone sinking in her chest. A laugh echoed in her memory, the laughter of Serena, sharp and mocking, as the car pulled away. And Leo too, chuckling along, like a boy in mischief rather than a man abandoning his mother. Ilara stood still, her silver hair catching the wind. Slowly, her trembling stopped. Her back straightened, her jaw tightened. The bag of chips slipped from her hand onto the pavement, forgotten. She pulled out her phone again, but this time she scrolled to a different contact. A name, Ms. Vance. When the line connected, her voice was calm. "They've done it," Ilara said softly. A pause, then, "Initiate the procedure." Immediately. She ended the call and placed the phone back in her purse. No tears fell. No collapse, no begging for explanations. Only resolve. The night around her seemed to shift. Ilara was no longer an abandoned old woman at a gas station. She was something else. Something her son had forgotten. 6 months earlier. The modern, glass-paneled house Leo and Serena called home was impressive, but cold. The walls were white, the furniture sleek and uncomfortable, designed to impress guests rather than provide warmth. On the granite countertop lay a pile of unopened bills, each stamped with red letters, "Past due." Leo paced the kitchen, his hair disheveled, his shirt untucked. Serena sat at the counter with a glass of wine, scrolling through her phone with the air of someone trying not to think too hard. "Damn it, Serena!" Leo snapped, slamming a fist on the counter. "We can't keep this up. They're going to take the house. Do you get that? Foreclosure. Gone. Just like that." Serena finally looked up, her eyes narrowed. "You think I don't know that? You're the one who insisted on that stupid investment in your buddy's startup. Guaranteed returns, you said. And what happened? He ran off with the money." Leo's face reddened. "Don't pin this all on me. You're the one who insisted we buy this house in the first place. We could have lived somewhere modest, but no, Serena wanted marble countertops and an infinity pool. Don't you dare, Serena started, but her phone buzzed with a notification. Her expression shifted, calculation flickering in her eyes. What about your mother? Leo blinked. What about her? She's, what? Living in that little house she's had since Dad passed? Barely spends on herself? She must have something saved. Insurance money, at least. Leo hesitated, rubbing his jaw. She's frugal, sure. But I doubt she has enough to cover this mess. He gestured at the bills. Serena leaned forward. You're underestimating her. Old people, especially her kind, they save everything. She probably has a nest egg. Appeal to her soft side. Tell her it's for the kids. Leo frowned, conflicted. I don't like it. Serena's eyes sharpened. Do you like the idea of living in a cheap apartment, Leo? Do you like seeing the kids pulled out of their private school? Do you like everyone knowing we lost everything? Her words sank in, bitter as poison. That night, Leo made the call. On the other end, Elara sat at her modest oak kitchen table, sipping tea. The house smelled of lavender and lemon polish, cozy and warm. When the phone rang, she smiled faintly. Leo. What a surprise. The conversation began lightly, but soon Leo's voice shifted, cracking under the weight of his rehearsed desperation. Mom, I wouldn't ask if it weren't serious. We're drowning here. The business went under. The bank's threatening foreclosure. The kids will lose their home. Elara's fingers tightened around the mug. She listened silently, her sharp mind processing each word. She had always known her son had a weakness for pride and appearances. But to hear him beg, it pained her deeply. When he finished, there was silence. Then she said softly, Leo, you know I'll help you. But we will do this properly. What Leo didn't know, what no one knew, was that Elara was far from helpless. After her husband died, she had taken the small insurance payout and quietly invested it. Where others squandered, she studied. She read books on trading, watched markets like hawks, and, over 2 decades, turned her modest start into millions. All in silence. She lived frugally, never flaunting wealth, letting the world think of her as just a little old widow. And she was fine with that. But now, she realized, her secret was about to be put to use. At Ms. Vance's office, a sleek downtown law firm, the atmosphere was precise and clinical. The lawyer herself was sharp, in her late 40s, with intelligent eyes that missed nothing. So, Ms. Vance said, sliding the draft contract across the table toward Elara. You're certain you want to go through with this? Yes, Elara replied firmly. If I give them money, it must be with safeguards. I won't let sentiment blind me. The contract was simple on the surface. A loan, large enough to cover Leo and Serena's debt. But buried within was a clause, clear and enforceable. Any act of betrayal or willful abandonment would trigger immediate forfeiture of their home to Elara. Leo and Serena arrived later that day, their desperation barely masked by fake gratitude. Mom, thank you, Leo said, hugging her stiffly. Serena smiled sweetly, but her eyes darted toward the paperwork. Just sign here, Ms. Vance instructed smoothly. It's standard procedure. Protection for both parties. Leo waved a hand dismissively. Yeah. We trust Mom. Where do I sign? Serena signed quickly too, her manicured nails scratching the paper. Neither read the fine print. Neither cared. As they left, Serena whispered to Leo with a smirk, Your mom's so old-fashioned. Paperwork and lawyers, as if she's some big shot. Leo laughed. She's harmless. Always has been. Elara, standing by the window, watched them drive away. For the first time in years, her expression was unreadable. Back at the gas station. Go on, Mom, get the kids a snack. They'll love it, Serena had said, her smile glinting like glass. And Elara, foolishly trusting, had stepped inside. Now, as the car sped away, Serena leaned back in her seat, laughter bubbling up. She actually bought it. Can you believe that? Chips for the kids. Leo chuckled, though uneasily. She'll figure it out soon enough. Let her, Serena sneered. What's she going to do? Walk home? In the back seat, Liam frowned. Dad, why did you leave Grandma? Leo's jaw tightened. Don't worry about it, champ. She'll be fine. But the doubt in his son's voice gnawed at him, even as the laughter from Serena filled the car. Back at the gas station, the last rays of daylight faded into night. Ilara stood in the dim glow of the neon lights, the abandoned bag of chips at her feet. The ache in her chest was deep, but she did not cry. Crying was for the powerless. Instead, she dialed Ms. Vance. They've done it, she said, her voice steady. On the other end, Ms. Vance's voice was cool, professional. Understood. The documentation is airtight. I'll begin proceedings first thing tomorrow. Thank you, Ilara replied, her tone final. She hung up, straightened her shoulders, and began to walk toward the bus stop at the edge of the highway. Each step was deliberate, her resolve crystallizing with every movement. Her son thought he had discarded her. Serena thought she was a fool. But they had forgotten who she really was. And now, the silent revenge had begun. The sun poured gold over the valley as the black sedan wound its way up a long gravel driveway. The air grew fresher with each turn, pine trees standing tall against the rolling mountains. Ilara sat quietly in the back seat, her hands folded neatly in her lap. She wore a soft cream shawl and a serene expression, as if she belonged to the mountains already. The car pulled to a stop before an estate so grand it seemed pulled from a dream. A sweeping veranda stretched across the front, with ivy climbing its stone walls. The windows glistened in the sunlight, reflecting the boundless blue sky. The real estate agent, a brisk woman in a smart gray suit, approached with keys in hand. Mrs. Ilara, she said warmly, welcome to your new home. Ilara accepted the keys gently, running her thumb across the cold metal. For a long moment she said nothing, only gazed up at the house. She thought of the small cottage she had lived in for decades, the gas station where she had been abandoned, and the courtroom where her son had been stripped of the very house he had mocked her with. And now, this. All cash as requested, the agent confirmed, lowering her voice in awe. Not many people can do that. Ilara smiled faintly. Let's just say, I've been preparing for this moment all my life. As she stepped inside, the echo of her footsteps carried through vaulted ceilings. The rooms were spacious, yet not cold. Sunlight filled every corner. A wide window opened onto a terrace overlooking a lush garden, already planted with roses and lilies. For the first time in years, Ilara exhaled fully. Here, she thought, here I will not be discarded. Here, I will plant roots that cannot be pulled out. The kitchen smelled of fresh-baked bread, the counters warm with afternoon sunlight. Ilara sat across from Liam and Sophia at a polished oak table, the same kind she once gathered her family around decades ago. The children had come hesitantly at first, shuttled by a neighbor after the eviction. But now, in the safety of Ilara's presence, their shoulders slowly relaxed. Grandma, Sophia asked, her young voice trembling with curiosity, why did Daddy say the house wasn't ours anymore? Ilara folded her hands and regarded them tenderly. Because, my dear, your parents made choices. Choices that put their pride above love, and their greed above honesty. And choices have consequences. Liam, older and sharper, frowned. But, you did something too, didn't you? You took the house. Ilara held his gaze. She saw not accusation but genuine confusion, even fear. Yes, she said softly. I did. Not because I wanted to hurt them, but because they left me no choice. Do you remember the day at the gas station? Both children nodded slowly, shame flickering in their eyes. They left me there, Ilara continued calmly. And when they did, they broke not only my trust, but a promise they made in writing. And because of that, I had the right to take back what I had given. Sophia's lip quivered. So we lost our home, because of them? No, Ilara corrected gently. You lost that house. But you gained something far more important, a future that no one can take away. She reached into her bag and laid 2 folders on the table, one for each child. Their names were embossed on the covers. These are trust documents, she explained. That house, the one your parents lost, it now belongs to you. Not to me. Not to your parents. To you. It will provide for your education, your shelter, your stability. And no one, can gamble it away or abandon you again." The children stared, wide-eyed. Liam whispered, "You did that for us?" Elara smiled faintly. "I did. Because family should be built on love and trust, not on lies. And because I never want you to feel the kind of pain I felt that day." Tears shimmered in Sophia's eyes. She stood abruptly, walked around the table, and threw her arms around her grandmother. Liam followed, more hesitant, but when he rested his head against Elara's shoulder, she felt his quiet resolve. For the first time since the betrayal, Elara felt something heal inside her. 2 weeks later, the world knew Leo and Serena's names. The video, grainy but damning, had been filmed by a neighbor and uploaded with the caption, "Rich couple loses mansion after scamming own mother. Karma served cold." In the clip, Leo shouted at officers, his voice cracking with fury. "You can't do this! This is my house!" Behind him, Serena clutched a vase, screaming at movers as they carried her designer furniture to the curb. Within hours, the video had millions of views. Hashtags trended. Comment sections overflowed with ruthless delight. Imagine ditching your mom at a gas station, then crying when the law comes knocking. This is a movie. Somebody give that grandma an Oscar. Serena's meltdown is the best thing I've seen all year. News anchors picked up the story. Local stations replayed the eviction with dramatic narration. National outlets dissected the court documents. Even international blogs shared headlines like, "They laughed when they left her. They cried when they lost their home." Leo's business partners cut ties within days. His phone, once buzzing with opportunities, now sat silent. Serena's socialite friends vanished, their invitations rescinded, their messages unread. At a cheap motel off the freeway, Serena sobbed into a pillow while Leo sat at the desk, scrolling through the endless flood of mockery online. His face was pale, hollow. "We're ruined," Serena whispered. "Completely ruined." Leo clenched his fists. "This isn't over." But even he didn't sound convinced. The phone rang in Elara's new home one evening, as twilight painted the mountains lavender. She recognized the number instantly but answered anyway. "Mother," Leo's voice snarled through the receiver. "Hello, Leo," Elara said calmly, arranging her teacup on its saucer. "You ruined us." His voice cracked, a mixture of rage and desperation. "Do you hear me? You destroyed everything. How could you do this to your own son?" Elara closed her eyes briefly, letting his words wash over her. When she spoke, her voice was steady as stone. "I didn't ruin you, Leo. You ruined yourself. The moment you and Serena laughed while driving away from that gas station, you sealed your own fate." "Don't twist this," Leo shouted. "You think you're some kind of saint? You tricked us with that contract." "I didn't trick you," Elara replied firmly. "I gave you a lifeline. You chose to spit on it. And now you want me to feel guilty for watching you drown? No, Leo. That guilt belongs to you." There was silence on the line. Then Leo's voice dropped to a hoarse whisper. "You'll regret this. You'll regret turning your back on me." Elara's lips curved into the faintest smile. "No, my son. You turned your back on me. All I did was finally stop waiting for you to turn around." She hung up. The dial tone hummed in the silence, but Elara felt only peace. Morning sunlight spilled across the veranda, gilding the garden in warmth. Elara stepped outside, a basket in her hand, and bent to snip a rose blooming deep crimson. The air smelled of pine and wildflowers, and for the first time in decades, she breathed as if the world belonged to her again. The estate was quiet. No laughter mocking her, no footsteps leaving her behind, no betrayal. Just peace. She spent her mornings tending the garden, her afternoons checking her trading accounts, and her evenings walking along the mountain paths, listening to the wind. At night, she sat with Liam and Sophia by the fireplace, teaching them stories from her past, of how she met their grandfather, how she built her life from scraps, how she learned that silence and patience were stronger than shouting and pride. The house was no longer just a house. It was a sanctuary, a fortress of lessons and love. And as Elara sipped her tea by the wide window, gazing at the sunset over the mountains, she smiled to herself. She had been abandoned, laughed at, discarded. But she had risen, stronger than ever. This was not an ending. This was the beginning. The motel smelled of mildew and cigarette smoke, the carpet worn thin, the buzzing light overhead casting everything in a dull, sickly glow. Serena sat on the edge of the bed, staring at a cracked mirror, her mascara smudged from tears. Leo paced like a caged animal, his shoulders hunched, muttering under his breath. A knock sounded on the door. Sharp, deliberate. Leo froze, eyes narrowing. Who the hell? He yanked the door open to find no one. Only a small brown package lay on the floor, neatly wrapped, no return address. Suspicion flickered across his face, but he brought it inside. Serena watched with hollow eyes as he tore the paper away. Inside was a plain white envelope. He opened it, and a check slid into his hand. It was for a modest sum, not enough to save them, not enough to even cover a month of luxury, but enough to buy food, to survive. A folded note was tucked inside. The handwriting was familiar, firm yet graceful. For food. You'll need it. No signature. None was required. Serena stared at the note as if it were venom. She's mocking us. Leo crumpled the paper in his fist, his face flushing with humiliation. She wants us to beg. That's what this is. But later, when hunger gnawed at them and their wallets were empty, he cashed the check. And in the quiet, when Serena was asleep, Leo sat on the bed, holding the note again. For the first time, his anger dulled, replaced by something far worse. Shame. The garden was alive with laughter as Sophia chased butterflies, her hair glinting like gold in the sunlight. Liam sat beneath a tree, sketching in a notebook, his brow furrowed with focus. Ilara watched them from the veranda, her heart swelling. The estate had become their sanctuary too. No shouts, no slammed doors, no cruel laughter. Only peace. One evening, after supper, Liam set down his fork and looked across the table with an expression far older than his years. "Grandma," he said quietly, "Sophia and I talked. We don't want to go back." Ilara blinked. "Back?" "To them," Liam clarified, his voice steady. "To Dad and Mom. We don't want to live in motels, watching them fight, pretending everything's fine when it's not. We want to live here. With you." Sophia nodded vigorously, her small hands clutching Ilara's. "We feel safe here. You listen to us. You don't leave us." Her eyes shimmered, and for a moment Ilara glimpsed the pain the children had carried silently for so long. Ilara's throat tightened. She had expected resentment, confusion, perhaps even rejection, given the circumstances. But this was a gift she hadn't dared hope for. "My dears," she whispered, stroking Sophia's hair and squeezing Liam's hand. "If that is your choice, then this is your home. For as long as you want it to be. You are never unwelcome here." The children smiled, their faces glowing with relief. And in that moment, the house became more than a sanctuary. It became a true home. Weeks passed. Life settled into a rhythm that was both quiet and fulfilling. Each morning, Ilara rose early, tending to the roses in the garden while the children prepared for school. Afternoons were filled with lessons, sometimes homework, sometimes the lessons only a grandmother could teach. One evening, she called Liam and Sophia into her study. The room smelled faintly of cedar and ink, the walls lined with books and folders. On the desk lay a thick binder, neatly labeled, "The Ledger." "This," she said, tapping the cover, "is the story of my life's work. Every trade, every investment, every decision I made since your grandfather passed." The children leaned forward, curious. "I want you to understand something," Ilara continued, her voice steady but warm. "True wealth is not in what you show to the world. It is in what you build quietly, patiently, with integrity. Your parents chased appearances. They wanted the world to think they were rich. But I chose to be rich in silence." Liam frowned thoughtfully. "So money isn't bad. It's how you use it." "Exactly," Ilara said, her eyes brightening. "Money is a tool. It can build or it can destroy. It depends on the hands that hold it. But even more important than money is this." She placed her hand over her heart. "Integrity, love, self-respect. Without these, all the money in the world will turn to dust in your hands." Sophia nodded solemnly. "Like Mom and Dad." Ilara's smile was tinged with sadness, but also pride. "Yes, my dear. They had everything and lost it all. Not because of bad luck, but because they lost themselves." The children absorbed her words in silence. Ilara knew they understood more than she had expected, and that gave her hope. Spring bloomed across the valley, painting the estate with colors so vivid it seemed touched by magic. Tulips unfurled, roses climbed higher, and the laughter of children mingled with birdsong. One afternoon, Ilara knelt in the soil with Liam and Sophia, planting marigolds in neat rows. Dirt smudged their faces, and their hands were messy, but their spirits soared. "Grandma," Sophia giggled, "your flowers are going to take over the world." Ilara chuckled. "If they do, my dear, at least it will be a world filled with beauty." Liam wiped sweat from his brow and stood, surveying their work. "It feels good," he admitted, surprising himself. "To build something. To make it grow." Ilara looked at him, her heart swelling with quiet pride. "Yes," she said softly. "That is the true reward of honest work." The camera of imagination pulled back then, capturing the three of them in the garden. An old woman with silver hair, a boy on the brink of manhood, a girl full of light. A family, rebuilt not by blood alone, but by choice, trust, and love. It was not the life Ilara had once dreamed of. It was something better. Years later, Ilara sat in her favorite chair by the veranda, a steaming cup of tea warming her hands. The mountains stretched before her, timeless and unyielding, the garden below alive with color. Liam was taller now, his shoulders broad, his mind sharp. Sophia's laughter still rang through the halls, though she had grown into a graceful young woman. Both carried the lessons their grandmother had etched into their hearts. Ilara closed her eyes for a moment, listening. No betrayal, no cruel laughter, no emptiness. Only the steady rhythm of life, rich and full. She thought of Leo and Serena sometimes, not with anger, not even with bitterness, but with a kind of distant pity. They had chosen a path of greed and deceit, and it had led them into ruin. But her grandchildren had chosen differently. And through them, her legacy would endure. The house that had once been a symbol of arrogance had become a monument of love and resilience. The family she had lost had been replaced with one she had saved. Ilara lifted her teacup, her lips curving into a gentle smile. She sipped, savoring the warmth. Out in the garden, Liam and Sophia were laughing together, their voices carrying on the mountain breeze. And Ilara knew, with a peace deeper than words, that they would never endure the pain she had. For she had given them not just a home, but a legacy. A legacy of strength. A legacy of love. A legacy that could never be abandoned. The end.